Hello and welcome to this one-off special session on producing action plans for the oral exam for AS and A2P with the OCR exam board. The AS assessment being called the Epip and the A2 being called the E&A. So we're going to have a look at what is required of you when completing this action plan. Well, we're going to argue that there are three main components. I'm going to go through each of those and make sure you have good examples of what a good action plan is. First of all, when you are providing your action plan, you must explain in relation to what the priority weakness is, what is the time scale of your action plan. Now, I'm going to argue that for my action plan that I'm going to present to you today, that the timescale, my action plan is going to be in relation to tackling in hockey, in field hockey, and I'm going to describe the timescale, and then going to go and describe the specific coaching points that I would be wanting to develop in the performer, and also either once I've done that or after or within that, I'm going to look at the specific progressive practices I would use to develop that particular skill. So when describing the timescale, the first thing you need to talk about is the length of the actual training you're going to do. Now, a very typical thing to say, you might have a reason to do it differently, but a very typical thing to say is that the training will encompass a 6-week period. So we want to have that notion in there. But we also need to sort of consider the frequency, from the FIT principle, the frequency of training. So we want you to say really a minimum of 2 to 3 times a week. Try and incorporate that. Whatever you're talking about, try and incorporate that if you can. And finally, within your time scale, we want to know what the specific objective or aim of the session is. Now, we want something really here that can be measured. So that means that if you are looking at something like a passing or a tackling or a shooting improvement, you could include something which was, for example, a ratio, how many successful attempts they make at completing this particular skill within a game environment, for example. If you are talking about a performance type situation, such as to improve the technique of a balletic or dance move or sequence, it might be that you apply a notion of kind of video analysis of before and after, and thereby measuring or comparing, if you like, the differences between the pre-training performance and the post-training performance. But I'm going to argue that for mine, I'm looking at a 6-week training period, that we're going to do 3 sessions a week, and that the measurement within the objective of mine is I want my performer after 6 weeks to increase their tackle success ratio. That means that they would have possession of the ball after the tackle by 10%. So whatever they have at the start of the 6 weeks, I want them to increase their tackle success ratio by 10% by the end, so thereby ensuring that my timescale is accurate, relevant and measurable. And in fact, I want to say that at the start of my program, my participant is only winning 50% of tackles. So of course the post-training target is going to be them winning 60% of their tackles, and that will be our specific target for our session. Once we've given the timescale, we need to describe the detailed coaching points or the detailed technique of the correct performance. So I'm going to focus here on jab tackling in hockey. So I'm going to give some specific points that I want the performer to try and achieve during the 6 weeks, 3 times a week training that I'm going to set up for them. And first of all, I'm going to say some really simple points. So I'll put these in blue. I want the performer, assuming they're right-handed, to be sideways on, left foot forward. Okay, sounds simple, but is a key coaching point to this technique. Secondly, I want them to be in a low, knee-flexed position, that classic defensive position that we talk about in lots of sports. Low, knee-flexed position. Thirdly, I'm going to say that the stick is held in the left hand, and that the hand is using what we call a V grip. a V grip. So that is the V of the index and the finger and the thumb running down the central shaft of the stick. We're also going to argue that the above is all correct for when the attacking player, the dribbler, has the ball on their forestick. If the ball is switched to their back stick, then this changes. We are no longer left foot forward, but that will actually switch to the right foot forward if the attacking player switches the ball onto their back stick. And therefore, because we achieve that performance, therefore we get what we called the slide technique. And that is the technique of moving backwards on our feet with either our left foot or our right foot forward, depending on where the attacking player positions the ball. We then want the defensive player to jab at the ball, and we want them to do that with two things considered. The first is the stick is low to the ground, and that of course relates to the low knee flex position we talked about before. And secondly, there's two types of jabs that the player might actually try. The first one is direct at the ball, but they might also jab outside the ball, but only ever on one side. They will only ever jab outside the ball on the forestick side of the opponent, or indeed on their own backstick side, forcing their opponent to go to the defensive forestick. So we're being very specific on what we want the defender to do. Finally, I haven't left myself much room here, but once the defender has got the opponent to dribble onto their forestick, they then apply two hands to the stick and try a block tackle to remove the ball. So they're my key coaching points. I hope you realise they're quite detailed, they're quite technical. If I was doing my E&A and I talked about, I don't know, low knee flexed position, for example, that would be my opportunity to bring in some of my anatomy and physiology theory. If you're doing the AS one, obviously you don't need to worry about that this time round. So now on to the progressive practices. We want now to be able to exemplify or to develop those coaching points we have described. So here we have a situation where we have attacker 1, who's right there, and we have defender 1, who's right there. Of course, attacker 1 is the performer with the ball. Now attacker 1, their job is to come into the practice through the black gate, and their job is to try, if they can, to score through one of the green or red gates. The green gate will score them 1 point, the red gate will score them 3 points. So of course the defender has a vested interest in trying to protect the red gate. So as a result, what do we force the performer to do? Well, of course they arc their run in this shape, they get their left foot forward, they hold the stick in their left hand, and they essentially channel the attacking one onto the forestick, thereby playing them into an area of safety. Now progressive practice number 2 looks very, very similar, and here we're saying it is progressive, so we've got a similar sort of idea, but this time we've put in the idea that this is being done on the sideline of the hockey pitch. So this time, if our attacking player manages to get down here, they get in a wide position and are able to cross the ball, whereas if the defender manages to channel the player into this area here, then of course what's very likely is we've got a notion of defender 2 and defender 3 all in this area here, so they've got support in that place. Not that we're saying there's actually defenders in there in our practice, but at least that's what the game situation would be. So this time again you get exactly the same thing. The attacking player comes into the practice, they're trying to attack this space here, but of course the defensive player, they curve their run, show the attacking player inside the pitch, and they force them into an area where they want to defend with exactly the same coaching points. Now progressive practice number 3 is just simply an extension of this. We're taking this now into defending in the D. We can add some extra coaching points as well here. Of course the attacking player is going to enter in, and their kind of primary aim is to get into the byline or to the baseline and to try and put a cross in here for someone to score. And of course it's the defender's job to try and prevent that from happening. So again, our defender takes on the same role, and they curl their run here, and the attacking player has no choice but to attack in this direction and to attack here, where there will be extra defenders, thereby the defender successfully defending the biggest threat. Well, that's all well and good, but these are sort of closed environment practices, so we want to make this more sort of game-like situation, judging more things, perceiving and interpreting more information. So what we might do is we might set up a simple practice where we have a large grid like this, and then within that we have a smaller coned grid like this. And what we've got is we've got our player, our key player, we want to develop there in the middle of this area. And what's happening is that around the outside of the area there are numerous attacking players, attacker 1, attacker 2, attacker 3, and so on and so on. You get the idea. And what they're doing is they're circling with the ball, or they're moving around the grid with their ball, or with a ball each, and when they're ready they will attack into the practice, and their job is to try and get around the cone with the ball and back out again. Now if they manage to do that they score, and of course it's the job of the defender to defend on all sides. They're looking to defend on various sides just like that, and thereby stressing more kind of decision making, etc. And absolutely finally we look at progressive practice number 5. 5 should be enough for your action plan, and what we have here, we have a large grid with goals at each end, 2 goals per team defending. And what of course we want our defenders to do, we might have teams, 2 teams of 5, so two teams of 5. And of course what we do here is we want to encourage our defenders, let's say our defender 1 who's our performer, if he's facing an attacker, of course to defend at this angle, forcing that opponent into the less valuable goal. And we would do it exactly the same way. This goal's worth 1, this goal's worth 3, and therefore encouraging the defender to apply the coaching points we discussed before. So simple progressive practices, but absolutely related to the coaching points and the specific weakness we wanted to work on. I hope this has been helpful. Good luck with your action plan.